You're listening to 15 Minutes, where we feature community leaders sharing what the rest of us should know but likely don't.
Hi, Michael Renfro here. I am the host of 15 Minutes, where we talk with top-notch lawyers, law firms, as well as legal marketing specialists about what it takes to grow a successful law firm. Today, we're going to, maybe flip the switch a little bit. Generally, I am the host, but I have Chad Frazen here of Rise 25, who has done thousands of interviews and with successful entrepreneurs, investors, and CEOs. And again, like I said, we're going to flip the script and we're going to be letting him interview me. So, Chad, take it away.
Hey, thank you so much, Michael. Before we get started, I'll let everybody know that this episode is brought to you by Gladiator Law Marketing, where they deliver tailor-made services to help you accomplish your objectives and maximize your growth potential. To have a successful marketing campaign and make sure you're getting the best ROI, your firm needs to have a better website and better content. At Gladiator Law Marketing, they use artificial intelligence, machine learning, and decades of experience to outperform the competition. To learn more, go to gladiatorlawmarketing.com or schedule a free marketing consultation. You can also send an email to adam@gladiatorlawmarketing.com. Hey, Michael, thanks so much for having me today. So tell me, how did you, what brought you to Gladiator Law, and what is your role there?
Well, let's see. I'm the sales. I am pretty much all of sales. I do have a gentleman who used to do the podcast with me before we started this one, Mason, who does handle a lot of the, some of the grunt work. I don't want to say that he's a grunt, but he really helps me in many ways getting out, marketing and stuff like that we do, outreach that we do. But other than that, I'm pretty much the salesman for the company. I've been with them since January of 2019, so a little over 3 years now. What really brought me to them from the very beginning, from the very first interview that I had with Adam, you could really tell that it was a different company. And what I mean by that is most companies really don't seem to care about their clients. I've been doing sales since I was 14. So I'm turning 50 now. By the time I got this job, I'd still been in sales for over 30 years. And, one of the biggest setbacks in sales is really being able to trust the company. And right out of the gate, it just felt different. So I was willing to take a chance.
Sure. Is that maybe the primary reason you'd say you're proud to work there, or is there another reason?
No, absolutely. They believe in what they're trying to do. And again, unlike, I'll probably end up saying some of the things that you're going to ask me, but, after being here for 3 years, it's one of the longest sales jobs I've ever kept as a sales role, and very much enjoyed it, number one. Number two, the company has grown, and that only happens when you're doing things right. Number one, not just because you're selling correctly. The information that I give to these folks is what sells the company. I mean, I am the face, and yes, I have a lot of sales skills, and I'm not trying to, be so modest that I don't say that I don't have skills. But what really sells the company is what the company does for the clients and the reputation that they've built and the retention rate that we have. And when you're talking about, legal SEO, it's a different ballgame.
What would you say is kind of the most complicated thing, or what is particularly complicated about what Gladiator Law Marketing does?
Right there, I just kind of segued into it without meaning to, but legal SEO.
Mm-hmm.
When you're trying to do SEO, that is one ball game. And I'm not saying that the components aren't the same, right? Obviously, if you're trying to rank on Google, then you're trying to rank on Google. So there's a lot of components that are the same, no matter what you're doing. But how you do it for a law firm that's trying to get a client to trust them enough to reach out and share their case with them, that is a different story. When you also are up against the wallet of the personal injury realm, particularly personal injury. And why do I say personal injury? Well, that's really, it's not just SEO legal marketing, but personal injury legal marketing is really where it gets complicated, because there's essentially no cap to the kind of case these gentlemen can get. These folks, I should say, excuse me, these lawyers can get, attorneys, female, male, doesn't matter. There's no limit. There's no cap really to the kind of case they can get, particularly if they get, like a big, my mind is drawing a blank, but a big, mass tort case, what we call mass tort. But that's like a huge case where they're trying to literally tell the entire country of anybody who's maybe taken a medication or used a particular product, about a case where there's liability on the company's part. You get a part of that case, I mean, generally speaking, these law firms are going to walk away with at least seven figures. And when you have really big law firms that do this for a while, there's law firms out that are bringing in, national law firms in the personal injury realm that are bringing in billions in attorney's fees. But that also means they're obviously getting, billions to trillions for their clients. But at the same time, it again, there's just no cap. So it's a hard contest.
As kind of the yeah, definitely, that makes sense. As kind of the sales guy, then, are most of the people that you talk to, like the attorneys or whoever you're trying to get as clients, are they aware that your service would be potentially valuable, or do you have to explain that to them?
I would say it's about half and half. And what I mean by that is if they've already done marketing to some degree or, dabbled in it, if you will, then they know that legal marketing, most of them, like lots of times, if they find us, for instance, it's because they found us by doing law firm marketing SEO, or law firm SEO on a Google search. And we're good at what we do. We practice what we preach. We use the same technology to get them to rank, to get ourselves to rank. But the reality is they know it's a different ball game many times. If they find us like that, they kind of already know that clearly it's different marketing for me than marketing for, say, even a doctor or, a restaurant, for instance, any kind of retail outlet. It's just always going to be different. So I think, at least, I would say at least half, but I think some of them don't realize quite just how, complicated and difficult it can be, because all the while you have Google constantly doing, changes, constantly changing the algorithm, and you'll have a big algorithmic update like that just happened this past December that literally flipped the game and changed many of the things that were working, in December are not. I literally just showed a gentleman yesterday. I just happened to have data because I'd looked at his town back in 2020. And everybody that was ranking then is not on the board now. And the people that are ranking now were not on the board then. That's how much of a flip. And that's just 2 years. And technically speaking, if I had done the data probably back in November or December, the same folks that were ranking in 2020 were probably still at the top. It's after this big change. And when Google makes a change, you have to, that's the real complicated part, is you have to adapt and you have to quickly decipher, how did the change affect my clients and what do we need to do to fix it?
So what would you say is kind of like the secret sauce about Gladiator Law Marketing that sets you guys apart, or that causes people to come and want to work with you?
I would have to actually say that it's probably a couple of things, if I'm being earnest. The reality is, and I think that's what draws people to us, is that it's not just one thing. Number one, we have years. And when you look at the staff that's involved, our founder alone, Lisa Vaughn, has 20 plus years specific to legal marketing only, designing websites, doing pay-per-click and SEO specific to legal marketing. Just her. When you look at the rest of the staff, most of the staff has already been here for more than 5 years before I came on board. There's only been a couple, maybe 2 or 3 hires since I've come on board. And we have a staff of about 20, and most of those people already have 5 years, and some of them had 10, 15 years before they came on board. So when you look at the staff, we have a staff that represents more than a century's worth of legal marketing experience. That is a big one. Why they stay and why they'll give us a chance is when they talk to our past clients and know why they're staying, why our clients don't leave us year after year. And that's because, even after we do what we do and help them get to where they're trying to get to, which the most growth is in the beginning. And I'm sure most people understand that, because you're usually starting from either a bad situation, or a situation that's almost nil to zero, right? So the beginning growth is exceptional. We've had 2,000% increase. But what's really important to me, and what I think speaks volumes to new people coming on board, new firms looking at us, is that in years, 3, 5, and down the road, we still have consistent growth. We still have an average medium annual increase of more than 33%. Traffic to their site. Well, if you're getting more traffic to your site, you're getting more business. That means there's growth from this vertical.
So tell me about a client that you kind of helped, you're the sales guy, so that you brought to Gladiator Law and what the process was in terms of getting them on board.
Well, I hope he doesn't mind me mentioning, but his name is Terex. He is out. I'm trying to think of his first name all of a sudden. How can I forget? Barry. Barry. Terex. Tarracks. He's a criminal defense guy out of Tampa. When he came to me, it's funny, he didn't tell me this until after, but when he came to me, I helped him on the first phone call. I always try to do a little screen share and look and take a live, snapshot, if you will, while we're sitting there together and do searches and look at things. And many times I can find little things right off the bat that they can change themselves that they just don't know about. Many times in like the Google My Business listing, which is, where you come up in maps, just so people understand that, which quite frankly is a huge piece of real estate these days. If you're one of the top 3 coming up on the front page in maps, you're on the front page number 1, and people are like, hey, he's close. They get a lot of calls that way, So again, I'll have these initial meetings where I go over that. And on that first meeting, I showed him a little something that he could do with his GMB. And at the time, he was ranking 21st and 22nd for DUI lawyer and criminal defense lawyer, respectively. And the next week when we met to go over the full analysis that I did for him, which I call a comprehensive competitive analysis, it's a CCA. But when we went over that, just in those 7 days, he had gone up to number 1 and number 2 for those keywords, which means he was now on the front page. And he's like, I'm getting calls. And he told me, he's like, I can stop taking, he's like, I was taking heartburn medicine because I was really nervous about the future of my firm, but I can stop taking that. And he was very thankful. And obviously, it was a no-brainer for him to come on board and give us the opportunity to really turn things around, all in all phases, not just on his maps.
Sure. Was there anything that he was, before that obvious improvement in terms of his ranking, was there anything that he was skeptical about that you kind of had to?
Oh yeah. Help? I mean, let me say this. First of all, attorneys by nature should be skeptical. That's their nature. I mean, like they're always representing one side or the other. And if they're on one side, which when they're representing themselves, they should be skeptical of anybody talking to them, which is why I don't even bother trying to cold call these guys as a salesman, because it's not even worth their time. It's not worth my time. It's not worth anybody's. But yeah, like most, he had skepticisms, and one of them, if I'm remembering correctly with Barry, it was well over 2 years that he came on board now. But seems like he had done some other things, I think, like Yellow Pages and things like that. So what he was skeptical about is that the reality that most things end up drying up. And I'm like, you're absolutely correct. The one difference between SEO compared to every other form of marketing that's ever been around up until this is I don't see anything new coming out. And what I mean by that, it's always going to be internet based at this point. Internet is where we have landed. Television is old. Radio is old. Anything that you put out ads, I'm not saying they're not worthy. Don't get me wrong. There's still a lot of cases to get out, to get from using those avenues. But a lot of the skepticism comes from the long lasting. And the beautiful part about SEO is, there will be times, there's up and downs with SEO. There's roller coasters. But if you have flexibility in your team and your team is staying on top of what is working now, and just to preface that, it's funny, but what worked yesterday may not work today, like we just talked about. But what's funny is in this industry, what worked 4 years ago may not start to work again, right? So it's, again, being on top of that. And once they see that with SEO, you can get yourself in position where you pretty much stay in position, and then that position is a payoff. If you're one of the top 5 ranking local firms, in that organic listing down there, and I'm sure everybody knows what I'm talking about, you are getting your money's worth of what it takes to be there. Almost always. Your phone is going to ring plenty. You're going to get plenty of good cases, and you're going to be the visibility is going to be there for what you need. The reality is staying there. Just like I've talked to so many who've done phone books, who've done billboards. They always find that at some point something ends up drying up and no longer works. It has a shelf life, if you will, of getting people to call you with that mechanism. I have been doing SEO now since 1997, and I've never seen anybody ranking on the top of the page do anything but great things. It's a matter of staying there.
So, they have that skepticism, and you obviously eased his concerns a week later by showing.
Well, I proved to him with,
Right.
I mean, quite frankly, I'm not, I don't want to make it sound like anything it wasn't. He was ready to go with me because of the GMB thing, because of that Google listing. However, after the presentation, I was like, look, I know you said you're already ready to go with me, but do you see now what you have to do? And if you do it, yes, it takes some time to get there initially, but once you're there, you really you have the ability of staying there for as long as you stay on top of it until you're ready to no longer be there.
Mm-hmm.
And he did. So, proving one thing right away, I think is a huge thing with it. If you have the ability to do that, and I always try to, that makes a difference because it shows them, hey, I care, and you're doing it before they've even ever put any money over, which really helps any skeptic.
Yeah,
quite frankly.
definitely.
But at the same time, I still presented a very sound case to him as an attorney. And the thing is, what we try to do when we present our findings and our recommendations, which is really what it is, we go out there and we find what's going on, and then we recommend this is how you get into either 5, 4, 3, 2, or 1 position. We present it in a different way, I think, than attorneys are used to seeing it. We itemize everything. It's very transparent, and it also explains it for attorneys in layman's terms, because even though they're very high-spoken, very intellectual people, and well-spoken is what I meant. They're very well-spoken,
Mm-hmm.
very intellectual, high intellects, and they write better than most of us read, right? So understanding that is one thing, but they really don't talk that way. They're just like everybody else when it comes to talking to them, and they really want you to break it down in the simplest of terms because they're not marketers.
So you mentioned they've been this yeah, definitely.
Sorry.
This guy has been a client for 2
Over
years.
2 years now.
So what's kind of been the story with him now for 2 years? He's obviously stuck around. What have you done for him?
Oh, we've continued to do him justice. I'm pretty sure we built him a new website which displays him better and gives him a better presentation to the world, of who he is. And it's just been, and if we didn't, then we fixed the website. I can't always remember. I mean, we deal with a lot of clients. Yeah. I don't mean to sound rude on that, but if we didn't build him a new website, then we always do what we call a facelift, and we'll fix it so that it's ranking better. He'll probably end up staying with us long enough for us to do a new website, I would imagine, because we do recommend about every 3 years you want to change your look. So we've continued to, produce everything, get him going. No, I now absolutely remember I think we're just about done with his new website. There was some issues that we've had. He's been with us for a while, but there was some issues. So it probably wasn't the best example when it comes to where he's ranking, only because he had some issues getting photography done for his new website. And we don't generally start a campaign SEO wise until we get the new site up. But again, the little change that we made in keeping him on top of GMB was feeding him enough business to where he was happy again. So, it's been kind of a back and forth, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So, let's say you've given a client a new website, you've elevated them to, tops in the rankings, tops in search rankings. How would you say a client's life is different after that?
I think one of the things that they start to experience is, understanding that not every agency is the same, and what I mean by that is marketing agencies over the years, particularly I think in the law firm marketing industry, which is now over 20 years old. It's been an industry for more than 20 years. I think a lot of it gets a bad name because first of all, I'm in sales. So when I tell people I'm a salesman, the first thing that a lot of people think of is car salesman, right? So salesmen have a bad name because of this one group. When you work with legal marketing agencies, you find that there are a lot of bad apples, but there's also a lot of good agencies that really, truly care about getting their clients to where they want to get them. And it's not always as easy as 1, 2, 3. And what I mean by that, for instance, I talked about this change. Well, we had multiple campaigns that were either fresh off the ground or right in the middle that all of a sudden had to completely change and readjust in order to keep the momentum that was going. So I think a big thing is communication. I will say that. So I think they just, after working with us, I think they can trust an agency, which is why I think they probably don't end up leaving, because it's hard to find that trust between a marketing agency and a law firm. And the one thing I will say, just to speak, very candidly, is that if you're doing it really well, then these really are partners, because a lot of things that the law firms have to do in order to maintain a good relationship, we can only do part of it. We can only do this part on the internet. They still have a public presence, a social presence, that's very real and physical, right? And they still have to win cases, and they still have to be polite and be happy and do all the things to get good reviews and all that stuff, or else it'll take away from us, right? So it works hand in hand too, that you're working with the agent or with the law firms. And I think they find a new meaning of what it is to work with an agency when they work with us, because right out of the gate, I try to refer to them as partners. They're not clients. It really is a partnership. It takes both the law firm and the agency working hard to get them the cases they need.
Final question for you. This podcast is called 15 Minutes. What are you most excited about regarding the podcast?
Well, after we get done with my little blab on, which I appreciate you doing for me, the whole goal really is to interview, like I said, other lawyers, other law firms, other legal marketing specialists that bring something to the table. And what I mean by that is, we call it 15 minutes, kind of like that, your 15 minutes of fame. So we want to give them 15 minutes of fame and showcase what they've done in a positive light. And, obviously we're looking for folks that have a good story, or have something that they've done. And the fact is, I don't know that I could, throw a rock and hit an attorney that doesn't have at least one good accolade in his pocket that we can showcase. So everybody, in our opinion, kind of everybody is a legal hero. So this is the opportunity to give them that 15 minutes of fame, and let's talk about what they've done for either, their firm, a client, maybe how they marketed themselves better, whatever the case may be.
Okay, great. We'll look forward to it. Hey, Michael, it's been great to talk to you. I appreciate you letting me be a part of it.
Thanks a lot, Chad. I appreciate your time.
So long, everybody. Thanks for listening to 15 Minutes. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time.